Hello, good people of YouTube, Mountbatten here, and today we are taking a look back at the Tier 8 Premium British battleship, the Vanguard, a personal favorite of mine, and a ship that's getting quite old. The ship was released, I believe, in late 2018, so this year, 2022, which I'm still getting used to that, this ship will be 4 years old by the time this year ends. Which is really crazy because I remember reviewing the Vanguard the first time she was released, and man, that was quite some time ago. But anyway, the Vanguard, Tier 8 Premium British battleship, real steel ship too. The ship was constructed and launched. Well, it was supposed to be constructed for the Second World War, but the war ended before she could be launched. The Vanguard is what the Lion class was planned to be, except for the main battery guns. Rather than having to manufacture the 16-inch guns that the ship was planned to be fitted with, they opted to go ahead and slap the 15-inchers that they had laying around. They had all the machinery and such to install and construct them and keep them up, rather than, of course, having to make a bunch of new machinery for the 16-inch guns that the Lion class was planned to have. And we got Vanguard. Now, real-life Vanguard didn't really do too much. Since she was finished after the war, she served as essentially the royal yacht for quite some time. Then she was decommissioned and scrapped later on in her career, which unfortunately the British didn't save any battleships at all from the World War II era, and Vanguard was, of course, not spared from this either. If there was one ship that after you passed up the Warspite and the Nelson on making them into museum ships, you'd think they'd save the Vanguard, the last battleship ever commissioned in the world. But nope, she got scrapped, and that's very, very unfortunate. I was very much like to see this ship in person, but again, that's impossible. So in game, what is this ship like? Well, this ship is essentially a battleship that plays like a heavy cruiser. She has maneuverability that's very similar to a heavy cruiser as well. We'll talk all about that and more. We're going to go through her stats and such and characteristics here right now. Then I'll give you guys an update on what it's like to play this ship in 2022 now. After quite a few mechanics changes the ship has seen. So let's go ahead and dive right on into the Vanguard. So, starting off with the armor, she is a Tier 8 battleship. And she has 32mm nose and stern plating. She does have a 64mm strip going almost up to the tip of her bow, almost becoming a very small icebreaker bow, but she does have it. It's a very small strip, very difficult to have battleship shells guaranteed to hit that, but of course if they do hit that, that can't get overmatched, so it is worth noting that she does have that. Her side has 32mm plating as well. Her armor belt is 356mm thick. Her citadel belt, which is exposed, is also 356mm thick. And it does then down to the flat middle to where it's 343mm thick. Same with the upper armor belt as well. Her torpedo belt is 229mm thick in the middle. Toward the front section, it is 235mm thick. She does have a transom stern. Transom stern, by the way, that's this flat stern that so many a British ship has. And since that is completely flat, that's an easy place for ships with good AP to get through, and it's 32mm as well. Alright, now her citadel, like I did mention, it is high and dry and exposed to the enemy team, which you got to be very, very, very careful about showing. Now, like I mentioned with the Marlborough, they have a very similar citadel in regards to its placement and such, and it being high and dry, but the Vanguard does have a big advantage over the Marlborough with this citadel. And this citadel is the main downside of the ship too. We'll talk about that here in a moment. In terms of hit points, she does have 71,700 hit points, decent amount of hit points for a Tier 8 battleship, with 25% torpedo damage reduction. Now, the guns on this ship, she has some pretty sweet guns. She has 8 15-inch guns with a 2.0 Sigma and a reload time of 25 seconds. Oh, and I am running this commander build on the Vanguard, if I forgot to show that earlier, or I'll show it again here for the sake of the video. With the build that I'm running on her, she does have a 180 time of 28.8 seconds on these turrets, maximum dispersion of 239 meters, and a maximum range of 20 kilometers. Now, both the HE and the AP on the Vanguard is quite good. The HE isn't quite British BB HE. It is essentially the Monarch's HE with a 1% less chance of causing a fire per shell. But it's not bad in any way, shape, or form. It's just not as good as it could be. So the HE does a maximum damage of 6,300, a 34% chance of causing a fire on the target, 95 millimeters of HE pin, and it comes out the tubes at 804 meters a second. The AP, which is not the British BB Techline AP, it does have the normal BB fuse time, which thank God it does. It does a maximum damage of 11,700 and comes out the tubes at 804 meters a second. And like I said, this ship does have 2.0 Sigma, maximum dispersion of 239 meters at 20 kilometers. So it's actually a really darn accurate Tier 8 battleship. And it's coupled with a really nice reload time of 25 seconds base. More on that, of course, when we're talking about how the ship performs, but main battery-wise, the ship's got a pretty sweet set of guns. Sectors aren't really worth mentioning. She has 16 of the 133s mounted in the dual turrets. No, you can't. You can't secondary build into it. They're mostly for adding to the AA, which is pretty decent. She has an A rating of 77. Back in the day, her A range was down to, I think it was mostly concentrated in 3.5 kilometer bubble around the ship. But now her range does go out to 6 kilometers. It's not exactly an AA boat, but it's got enough to make most Tier A CVs think about going near her, but at the same time you won't be swatting down planes. It's all Bofors too, by the way. Wonderful, wonderful Bofors, just like the British Techline as well. All Bofors, lovely Bofors. Maneuverability is this ship's definite strong suit. She has a maximum speed of 31.5 knots with the speed flag, a turn circle radius of 850 meters, and a base rudder shift time of 9.7 seconds. That's right, 9.7 seconds on a battleship. Base, that's with no mods. If you want to put mods on, you can have a goofy battleship in terms of maneuverability here. And that is, that's a lifesaver in this ship. Alright, concealment. With the build that I have on her, which is the module and the commander skill, you can get it down to 12.6 kilometers, which is very nice for a Tier 8 battleship. That's pretty darn stealthy, right along there with the British Techline battleships as well. For her modules, she's pretty lacking modules. For her consumables, she's pretty lacking consumables. She has the damage con, of course, and she gets the repair party. Now, the repair party is an improved repair party, which is very, 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 very nice, given the armor layout of the ship. So, some highlights of the repair party is that the repair party, it is improved. It cools down in 60 seconds, under 60 seconds if you have the flags equipped, which you can get down to around 57 seconds. I think if you build into it too with the commander skills, you can get it down even faster, which is really nice. It does repair 60% of pin damage. On other battleships, it's only around 50%, depending upon, again, what line you're looking at, so you get that improvement there. And it heals up to 33% of Citadel damage, which is very, very, very nice. That's 10% more than most other battleships. So that is very, very good. Very, very, very good there with the repair party. Now, granted, that's all she gets in terms of consumables. Nothing else. No catapult aircraft, no hydro, nada. That's all you get. So, not a lot to work there, to work with there with the consumables. So, overall, Vanguard in 2022. How does this ship play? Well, like I said at the start of this video, it plays very much like a heavy cruiser. That's how I was playing it in 2018 when she came out, in 2019, 2020, 2021, and now too. By that, I mean you stay at around mid-ish range, and you use your maneuverability to get all of your guns on your target. Because just like the Marlborough, I mentioned this in the Marlborough review, you have terrible, terrible, absolutely garbage turret angles, both ahead and astern. You literally have to show broadside, like, not a lot of side, like actual broadside to the enemy ship to get your rear turrets or forward turrets off, depending upon how you're oriented toward the enemy ship. Which means that your exposed citadel becomes very vulnerable for the enemy battleships to shoot at. Not to mention, too, the ship is, of course, absolutely coated in 32 millimeters of armor. So that means, of course, many a HE spammy cruiser that's running IFHE can pin your battleship. But if you're paying attention to your surroundings, and if you are looking at your minimap, and you're dancing around, you can make the most of the ship and really push this ship quite far. Now, her guns, they are only 15-inch guns, which means that when she's top tier, it's actually quite nice. You have a very fast, very maneuverable battleship with some very quick reloading 15-inch guns that you can bully other battleships with when you get to see tier 6 battleships. But of course, when you're in a tier 10 game or a tier 9 game, as many a tier 8 battleship will find itself in, you suddenly, of course, cannot overmatch 27mm bows. So now you're stuck in a situation where your nice AP is pretty much useless, and you have to fall back on your okay and decent HE. Now, this ship is not an HE spammer. It's definitely a more AP-focused ship, but you can't rely on one ammunition type or the other on the Vanguard. You really do have to play it like a heavy cruiser. Make sure you pick the appropriate ammo type. When ships are bow into you, that you can't overmatch their bow, so of course tier 8 and above battleships, load that HE and get slinging some HE in the face. For my most experiences with the Vanguard, the HE's, it's not, it's not a frickin' Monarch, it's not a Lion or anything like that. You won't be setting fires left, right, and center, but she definitely doesn't have any problems setting fires. And that's a godsend when you're being up tier to tier 10 in a tier 8 battleship. Now, the AP, punches very, 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 very similar to Bismarck and Tirpitz' AP, but unlike with the Bismarck and the Tirpitz, you can actually hit what you're aiming at and hit it on a pretty darn regular basis. The dispersion on the Vanguard is much more similar to the Warspite and the Hood rather than the absolute shotguns that are the mainline, tech line British battleships. So for a tier 8 battleship, it's pretty accurate. Now, of course, if you're looking at the dispersion you're seeing on screen, it's not a super cruiser. Again, it is a tier 8 battleship. But for a tier 8 battleship with a 25-second reload time, this dispersion is really freaking nice. Now, again, you do get trolled by battleship dispersion, as RNG does, but compared to other tier 8 battleships, it's really nice. Now, with the maneuverability of your ship, too, if you're paying attention to your surroundings and taking note of when you're being looked at by other enemy battleships, you can, of course, avoid getting blapped in the Citadel, but that will, of course, leave you with just 2 sets of guns to work with, which is essentially eliminating half of your firepower. So that's why you want to be hanging back at mid to longer-ish range, definitely not at maximum range, but at mid-range. If you're paying attention, you can definitely angle your armor in time to bounce shells. Now, while it does have a very fast rudder shift time that allows you to do this, it is still a battleship. It still has a battleship turn rate. It's not all in with the heavy cruiser turn rate there, but it is very nimble for a battleship. So you can take priority target to let you know when you are being looked at. I personally don't take this, because once you've played enough battleships and ships in general, you generally know when you're being eyed up by the enemy team. If you, again, pop out of your view scope every now and then, take a look around, see who's around you, look at the minimap, you should be aware of who's looking at you and who might be shooting at you and where you need to angle. But until you get to that point, you could always just take priority target. Very easy solution there. So the Vanguard is a very fun battleship to play. It's very fast-paced. You gotta be aware of your surroundings. It's a big risk, big reward battleship, because again, if you want to get your full broadside on target, you gotta show your broadside armor to the enemy team, which, if they have battleships with any large caliber guns, are going to rip through your Vanguard and leave you in a very, very, very bad way after. But again, you do have the improved hill to fall back on. Now, you don't want to be relying on that improved hill. It's not the dry dock hill where you can print another Vanguard if need be, but it will definitely help you limp out of that situation and help you lick your wounds and get your Vanguard up to a pretty decent shape to where she can go join back in the fight. Eating 1 or 2 Citadels is definitely not the end of the world, and definitely not the end of your match in this thing. As long as you're, again, being mindful of your surroundings, make sure you have an exit plan, you will do fine in the Vanguard. And, of course, just like all the other fast battleships that I feature here on the channel, definitely keep moving in the Vanguard. You don't want to sit still. The ship cannot sit and tank. It's not a battle tanker. You can't angle it well enough to where you can make proper use of your guns and still tank for the team. Keep moving around. Draw the shots at you. Dodge the shots. Take those shells away from the enemy team that would be going toward your team. You want to bait the enemy ships to shoot at you, and the Vanguard's very, very, very good at doing that. In addition to this, too, she's great at torpedo beats. If you have any thoughts that torpedoes might be coming at you and you're prepared, you won't take any torps in this ship. From destroyers. Aircraft carriers, of course, they can drop those right on you. Not much you can do about that, but actually you can usually turn into them and get into them before the arming distance has been passed. But overall, Vanguard's a very, very, very fun battleship. A bit more of a challenging one to play for the average Joe. Once you get the hang of it, she's a really, really solid ship. Overall, I'd give this ship, in today's World Warships, about a 7 out of 10. The pros being her very accurate, very good DPM on her guns. The decent AA, again, it's not God tier, but it's pretty decent. The 9.7 second base rudder shift time that the ship has, and good concealment. The downsides being a huge one, of course, the firing angles on her turrets, and of course the exposed citadel, and the lack of any other consumables. But all in all, I'd say she's still a really solid ship. Is it worth dropping what you're doing and going to pick the ship up right now? Nah, but if you do like ships like the Hood, the Repulse, British battleships and battle cruisers that are more running around at mid-range, you know, baiting the enemy team shots and such, you will more than likely enjoy the Vanguard. And plus, if you do pick her up in a container, super container, Santa crate, or whatever, I would say the ship would be a pretty good pull from one of those containers. Alright guys, hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, make sure to drop a like and leave a comment down below. If you really enjoyed the video, make sure to subscribe to the channel. We're on our way to 35,000 subs, just past 31,200 a few days ago, and I cannot thank you guys enough for that. Hope you guys are having an absolutely wonderful Wednesday, and hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. And I'm sorry my dyslexia kicked in. We passed 32,100 subscribers a few days ago. Wow. Yeah, gotta love that. Anyway guys, hope you guys enjoyed. Hope to catch you guys in the next one.